Think for a moment. Think about the quiet patterns in your own life, the habits you repeat, even when you know they hurt you, the thoughts you return to, even when they drain you. Now imagine discovering that these struggles you see as personal flaws were already mapped out, analyzed, and exposed with unsettling accuracy by one of the deepest minds in human history. Imagine realizing that a man who lived more than a century ago understood your inner conflicts better than most people around you today. What if the discomfort you feel, the contradictions you carry, and the silent battles you fight are not random at all? What if they are deeply human? And what if, by the end of this journey, you uncover a truth so uncomfortable that it permanently changes how you see yourself? This is not a story about literature alone. It is a mirror, and the question it asks is simple, but disturbing. Is this you? Fyodor Dostoevsky did not write to entertain. He wrote to expose. He cut directly into the human soul, stripping away illusions, comfort, and self-deception. His characters are not traditional heroes. They are restless, conflicted, morally torn, and painfully self-aware. They hesitate, they sabotage themselves, they crave meaning, yet resist responsibility. And when we read them, something uncomfortable happens. We recognize ourselves. Dostoevsky understood modern anxiety long before psychology named it. Long before therapy rooms and diagnostic labels existed, he was already asking the most dangerous questions. Why do people knowingly choose suffering? Why do we cling to ideas that harm us? Why do we fear freedom even while longing for it? If you are drawn to philosophy, psychology, or understanding why people act against their own interests, this journey is for you. It does not offer comfort. It offers something far more valuable: truth. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. If these questions already stir something inside you, support the channel. Subscribe, like, share this video, and comment what first came to your mind when you heard these words. Stay until the end. The final insight is the most powerful of all, and it may completely change how you understand your inner life. Dostoevsky believed the greatest battlefield is not society or politics, but the human conscience. In his world, the most terrifying prison is not built from walls, but from thoughts. In Notes from Underground, he introduces a narrator who is intelligent, hyper-aware, and deeply miserable. This man understands himself so thoroughly that he becomes paralyzed. He sees every motive, every excuse, every contradiction forming before he acts. And that awareness destroys his ability to live. Think about that. Have you ever analyzed a decision so deeply that you ended up doing nothing at all? Have you ever felt trapped inside your own mind? Dostoevsky reveals a painful truth. Self-awareness without courage becomes a curse. The underground man is not unintelligent. He is divided. His thinking turns inward and becomes self-punishment. This is where many modern minds live: overthinking, doubting, replaying conversations, anticipating failure before it happens. Not because they are weak, but because they are painfully aware. In Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky pushes this even further. Raskolnikov convinces himself that intellect alone can place him above moral law. He believes certain people are entitled to break ethical boundaries for a greater purpose. But what destroys him is not society or the legal system. It is his own conscience. Guilt becomes heavier than any prison sentence. Dostoevsky's message is clear: you cannot escape yourself. No ideology, no rationalization, no clever argument can silence the part of you that knows when you have betrayed your own values. Pause and reflect. How often have you justified actions that quietly eroded your sense of self? How often have you ignored discomfort because facing it would demand change. One of Dostoevsky's most haunting insights is this: human beings do not only seek happiness, they seek meaning. And sometimes they choose suffering because suffering makes them feel real. Pain becomes familiar, and familiarity feels safe. This is why people return to toxic relationships, destructive habits, and self-defeating stories. Not because they enjoy pain, but because pain gives them identity. In The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky confronts the terrifying freedom of being human. If there is no external authority to absolve us, then we are responsible for our choices, and responsibility is heavy. So ask yourself honestly, do you want freedom or do you want certainty? Do you want truth or comfort? Dostoevsky does not give easy answers. He gives confrontation, and in that confrontation lies transformation. As we continue, notice what happens when you sit with his ideas long enough. They stop feeling abstract, they become personal. This is because Dostoevsky understood something many thinkers avoid admitting. Human beings are not purely rational. They are contradictory. Sometimes people act against their own happiness simply to prove they are free. In Notes from Underground, the narrator admits that even when shown what would benefit him, he may choose the opposite, just to assert autonomy. Think carefully. How many times have you rejected good advice, not because it was wrong, but because accepting it felt like surrender? Often this rebellion is quiet. It looks like procrastination, self-sabotage, endless preparation. You tell yourself you'll act later, when conditions are perfect. But deep down, something resists movement. Dostoevsky saw this resistance as fear of responsibility, because once you act, you are accountable. Modern psychology later echoed this insight. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to face. Dostoevsky's characters live there. They lie to themselves and they know it. They feel guilt, yet resist redemption. In Crime and Punishment, guilt is not just an emotion. It reorganizes the mind. Thoughts fragment. Reality distorts. Isolation deepens. Dostoevsky is making a psychological claim. When your actions violate your inner moral structure, the mind revolts. Anxiety, restlessness, and despair are not weaknesses. They are signals. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. What truth are you avoiding? Because acknowledging it would force change. Dostoevsky also warned against reducing humans to systems. When people are treated as machines, driven only by logic, efficiency, or pleasure, something essential is lost. In The Brothers Karamazov, especially the parable of the Grand Inquisitor, freedom is shown as a burden many people do not want. They choose comfort over truth, certainty over meaning. Reflect honestly. How often do you trade long-term growth for short-term relief? Dostoevsky did not glorify suffering, but he believed suffering has purpose when it leads to awareness. The tragedy is unconscious suffering, pain that repeats without reflection. This is why his work feels so modern. Distraction is endless, noise is constant, meaning feels scarce. Dostoevsky would say, depth is earned through struggle, moral choice, and the courage to face contradiction. If discomfort is not your enemy, what might it be guiding you toward? Now we reach Dostoevsky's most unsettling insight, the one that binds everything together: radical personal responsibility. The moment you realize you are responsible for your inner life, everything changes. You can acknowledge your past, your trauma, your circumstances, but you cannot hide behind them forever. In The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky suggests that each person is responsible for everyone and everything. Not legally, but psychologically. Every action, every silence, every compromise shapes your inner world and the moral atmosphere around you. When responsibility is avoided, the self fragments. Life feels unreal, meaning dissolves. People then ask the wrong question. Why do I feel empty? The deeper question is, what truth am I avoiding? Dostoevsky's characters know the truth and resist it, not because they are evil, but because responsibility feels like annihilation. Look inward. Where are you delaying responsibility because it would require change? What story do you tell yourself to justify staying where you are? Meaning is not discovered passively. It is created through choice, commitment, and action aligned with conscience. Here is the final realization. Dostoevsky's characters are not warnings meant to scare you. They are reflections meant to wake you. Recognizing yourself in them is not failure. It is the first act of freedom. So ask yourself honestly, if you took responsibility for your inner life, what would you need to stop doing? And what would you finally need to begin? Dostoevsky believed transformation begins with honesty. Truth is not gentle at first, but once illusions fall, clarity emerges. When discomfort arises, don't silence it. Listen. When guilt appears, don't justify it. Examine it. These are not enemies. They are signals pointing toward a more conscious life. And now the question returns, heavier but clearer than before. Is this you? If you are still listening, something inside you recognized itself, not intellectually, but intuitively. That recognition is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning. Thanks for listening.